All right, video 6 of the Adventures in CRE Hotel Acquisition Model. In this video, we are going to go over the Other Expenses tab. So again, a high-level overview. We have at the top our room expenses. Below that, we have our undistributed expenses. We have our franchise fees, our management fee section, fixed expenses, and our CapEx and FF&E reserve. So let's quickly look at the operating cash flow summary and just see where all of these fit. So we have our room expense here, and as you recall, we just went through in previous videos our F&B details, and we have our other operating departments details. So here's our F&B tab, and here's our other operating departments tab. So we went through those details. So remaining is still our room expense, so we're capturing that. And then we are going to go through our undistributed expenses, which is all in this section. And then our remaining franchise fees, management fees, fixed expenses, and our CapEx. All right, so for room expenses, we're currently in the static option. And so the way this works is you put in a dollar amount per occupied room. So in our example, for every occupied room, the expense is $75, and we grow it at a steady annual growth rate of 3%. So that's the static scenario where this is going to grow 3% every year. If we want to choose the custom yearly input method, we still put in our year one expense, but we have the ability to grow it each individual year, so we can customize the input. So maybe in year 2021 we want to grow it by 5% or 2%, for example. So that is room expenses. So coming down to undistributed expenses, we have 5 line items, and all of them except for credit card fees have the same functionality. So credit card fees or this row doesn't have any optionality. You're doing percent of revenue, and it's a static growth at 2.5%. Obviously, you can alter whether this is credit card fees or the 2.5%. But for the other 5 options, let's use the G&A line item as the example. So in our first growth method, we are doing a percent of revenue, and we are doing a static growth assumption. So we're basically saying it's a 9%. It's 9% of revenue every year. So our G&A, 9% of revenue, and that holds for the entire whole period. If we want to do a custom input, you'll see that this turns black, and then every year we can choose what percent of revenue will be G&A. So maybe you're trying to shrink this, or you're trying to grow it for some reason. You have the ability to do so. So for example, in 2022 you want to make it 10%, you can do that. So you also have the ability to do an annual growth method, where you will manually input your year one expense, and then you can grow it accordingly every year. And this is the custom option, or you can choose the static option, which gives you one growth rate that will be applied to every year. And so that's really all the undistributed expenses. That's how they all work. They're all the same, as I said, except for the credit card fee line item. So moving on to franchise fees, you have your initial fee, and you have the ability to put this in any year you want during the whole period. And this is just in case, maybe you want to get rid of your management, and the idea is to reflag the hotel once you buy it. And you're able to put the initial fee in any year. And so below we have the royalty, marketing, and reservation fees, and you have the ability to change these. Maybe you don't pay reservation fees. Maybe you have other fees that I'm not labeling here. You can adjust accordingly. As you can see, the text in these cells are blue. So right now we're doing a custom input, and all of these are a percent of revenue. So for the custom input, you use row 69, and you can make this a percent of revenue for every year. It may alter in your scenario, or you can do a static scenario and you just have 1% input that will cover the entire whole period. And this is the same for marketing, same for reservation fees, and then other fees, you have the ability to just manually input whatever numbers you feel. So this is just another line item added that gives you an additional ability to add another fee. All right, so moving on to management fees. Right now, we are in the custom yearly input, and we're saying that the management fee is a % of gross revenue. And here we're showing that the management fee slowly grows over time from 3% to 3.25%. So if you have one of these scenarios, you will select the custom yearly input. However, if you have a static % of gross revenue for the management fee, then you will input whatever that percentage is here in cell H83, and that will hold for the entire period. And so below that, you have the incentive fee. So right now, we are in the scenario where you can choose from a line item in the pro forma. So your incentive fee is based on a line item in the pro forma, and you have the ability to customly adjust for each year. So from line item in the pro forma and custom, this is what opens up to the right. So here you see it's a select from drop down. We have total departmental profit. We can choose from total revenue, and we can choose from gross operating profit as well. And then this will update accordingly. It will basically read from the operating cash flow statement, and it will pull in the relevant number and base the percentage off of that. So you use the custom scenario, or you can use the static scenario, which will be just one input in cell I-87, and each year of the whole period we use that input, that percentage. And then if you click on custom, you have the ability to just manually input your incentive fees. And a lot of times in reality, the incentive fee isn't so straightforward. It isn't just based off of a line item. Usually there are thresholds management may have to hit, and then above that threshold. So I didn't put all of these variables. It's really hard to capture in the model. So you have the ability here to put in any sort of formula you want, or just manually enter the numbers. And so when you select this custom cell, when you select E87, it pretty much renders D88 and E88 useless because you're in the custom scenario already. So that really wraps up management fee. So moving on, we have our fixed expenses. Here we have taxes and insurance. So you'll put in your assessed value, your local mill rate, and then your annual growth. Below that, you have insurance and the annual growth percentage. And then the final section is our CapEx and FF&E reserve. So currently, for our reserve, we're in the static mode, which is just a % of gross revenue for every year. So currently we have 3%. You can click the custom yearly input. Here we're showing a growth. I guess we're saying that, maybe we're doing a major renovation, so we're already capturing that. So we want to have, less CapEx reserve for year 1 and 2, and then we're going to have a stabilized CapEx reserve going forward. And, the reason being because we're earmarking this $8 million in our budget already. Maybe just a scenario. So that is the custom yearly input. And then below, you have the ability to input manually any sort of major capital improvements you are considering for the hotel. And so here we're doing this $8 million. And that will show up here in our operating cash flow statement. Okay, I believe that is it for our other expenses. And so stay tuned for our final hotel valuation model walkthrough video where we will go through the penetration tab. All right, thanks. Bye.